Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is. Time for another client lesson update, which many of you have said this is the most informative and favorite of my video series that you guys like. So if you're in that category, please click like down below. Keep those likes higher than dislikes. And let's get over to the point. Now this one's going to cover more of your less experienced lifters. People say, well, Jason, we want to hear about the advanced guys. My advanced guys don't have problems. My advanced guys don't really have problems other than tendonitis, and we have to avoid overuse. We get to a point with those guys where all they have to do is follow the program and tell me if something hurts. So there's not really as much useful info on a lot of that that I can give over to you guys. I'll have stuff that'll come through, but I have more issues dealing with novice lifters with a history of novice programs who come over to intermediate, and especially ones who haven't reached the strength levels that you want yet, because some people just don't. One of the problems I run into with those guys, and it's routinely, some of them are going to be listening as they watch these. I might even say that they feel personally attacked. Well, you're like one of several. So it's not like there's only one guy, but they all do the same thing. In fact, they all use the exact same line when they go off program. And that's when they add weight when they're not supposed to. They add weight and they always send me a messenger message saying, well, I did this weight and it was fine. It was fine. Now, the guys who are listening are going to go, wait, that's me. Yeah, you're one of the three guys who does that. You guys all give me the exact same line. And it's fine until it's not. And what I will usually see is when we're dealing with guys who have run novice LP programs, which all of us who've put these out over the years, we've created a monster. We've created a monster because in the minds of many lifters, they think that they're supposed to always add weight. That if you can add 5 pounds to a lift, that you always should. Right? If you think you can grind out the sets with 5 more pounds, you should always do so. Because that's what novice linear programs have taught them. In fact, so many of us have put out programs like this that some of the criticisms that you will see, and this is one of the criticisms I've seen of myself, which is insane, is that that's the only thing that I know how to do and that that's all I would ever have anybody do. In fact, I had someone come and tell me that's exactly what you just have your clients do, is just add 5 pounds and just do linear progression. And it's like, my clients, if they saw the people writing this to me, they would laugh. Because half of my clients are on conjugate method. So we don't do that at all. But the problem we have as a result of this is that it's been ingrained in their minds. And they still think of themselves as novices. And it's like, guys, you guys need to understand that if you could add 5 pounds every workout, and it's not 3 times a week, because I don't generally do full body for anybody who's not a total rank novice. They're usually on upper lowers. So if they're doing box squats, and yes, the box squat is the one I run into this the most on. Although some of my really young guys will do this with bench. If they're box squatting twice a week and they're running something that's still almost a linear type program, they get into their heads that they need to add 5 pounds every workout if they can. Well, the problem we run into is that you hit a wall. And what people need to remember is that why do we make novice lifters do this? It should be very obvious, because they're lazy when it comes to squats and deadlifts. If you do not take novice lifters and force them to add weight every single session until they fail, they're going to have 30 pounds less on the bar than they need to, because squats and deadlifts are hard. This is inherently put into novice LP programs because otherwise they will not push these big lifts, because people who are new to lifting don't realize that 200 pounds is not heavy on a squat. Okay, that's not heavy for a grown man. They're not used to seeing big numbers, and so they start thinking in their heads that they don't really differentiate between something like a bench and a squat, and their squat will lag behind their bench if you let them, instead of being 100 pounds heavier, where it should be. So what will end up happening is that they will half-ass it. By doing it this way, we force them to always work hard. Well, the point is that we're not doing a lot of volume on these exercises. We can't afford to miss reps. And usually because on novice programs, you need these guys near limit sets because they're not doing anything else. In other words, if squatting and deadlifting is the only lower body movements they're doing, you're going to have to make every single rep count. You've got to take them to that bleeding edge. Same thing if the bench press is the only thing you're doing for your chest. Got to take it to that bleeding edge. But for people who you're writing more custom programs for, we have other exercises in there. Okay, we have other posterior chain work for all my guys. All my guys at least do good mornings in addition to their squats and deadlifts, right? A lot of them do a lot of other stuff, depending on how advanced they are. They all do good mornings. Sorry, we have another lift in here. We have more total volume. We don't have to ride the bleeding edge. And the problem we have, though, is that they don't get that. They don't understand that we only push these guys to that bleeding edge so that we can bump them back 10%. Because if you're within 10%, okay, if you are within 10% of your limit sets, you're probably stimulating muscle growth. Now, for someone who isn't a novice anymore, we don't want to use the classic lifts to try to stimulate all their growth. They're hard to recover from. And we don't want them to be grinding their volume work. We don't want them to be grinding on it. But getting these guys to understand that it should always be fine. You shouldn't be hitting grinders on a 5x5 box squat. We have other work behind it. You're getting more volume in behind it. But they want to. They always want to add weight, add weight, add weight. And you've got to get these guys to understand, and this applies to all of you out here who are no longer novices, you can't just keep adding weight and trying to do the novice linear progression. Right? You can't add 5 pounds every workout until you hit a wall and have to back down. The reason we do that for novices is because they can't determine where their effective threshold is. When you're coaching someone who's an intermediate, you can watch their bar speeds and strength and tell if you have them working hard. Okay? You can have them working hard and causing an adaptation without adding weight. You could go 2 weeks without adding weight to the bar. If they're working hard enough on those squats, I can take 3 or 4 workouts and continue to stimulate growth. If I have appropriate bar speeds, appropriate weight, appropriate volume. You don't have to push someone till they start missing reps. We don't have to do that. But in their minds, they do, because that's what they've been taught with linear progression. So getting your intermediate type guys to understand that they don't have to do this to stimulate maximum adaptation can be difficult, because they think that you're holding them back. Why aren't you letting me add weight? It's like, because you don't have to. You know, that's what I would tell these guys too. If you want to be adding weight and lifting as heavy as you can all the time, we need to take you into a max effort program, right? Because no one cares what your 5x5 max is. That's not lifting heavy. You really want to lift heavy all the time, it's time to go to conjugate. You can max out twice a week. But a lot of guys don't grasp this. When they transition from the novice to the intermediate phase, they lose track of the fact that we just need to be doing enough hard work to stimulate adaptation. Okay, that's what we need. We don't have to add weight every time. If you do, you better invest in microplates. You're going to need to get 1 pound and half-pound fractional plates. And that would be fine. You can get away with that to some extent till it stops working. And then we do other supplemental work to make sure everything's growing. Right? We do other supplemental work to make sure everything's growing. Which some of that stuff we can push it harder because we're not worried about missing reps or hitting failure on a lot of our supplemental lifts. They're safer and they're less taxing. But we don't want to do that on big exercises that have a lot of axial loading. It's not going to work very well for people not on drugs. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.